This week we're going to talk about motivation and emotion, two words that really control the direction of behavior. Motivation, emotion, and motion have the same root. They're similar in many, many ways. First, motivation and emotion are both stimuli that force us into action in some particular way. And its reason for this is because much of our behavior is purposeful. It's controlled and directed by these internal states. Now, motivation is experienced by desires to get some particular goal that you need. Like I'm hungry, I need food. I'm thirsty, I need water. Emotion is a feelings that we have that directs us to do certain kinds of behaviors. And internal feelings. But both of them are driving our behavior. The response to motivation, they're goal-directed. We're trying to reach some particular goal, like getting food if we're hungry. Emotion are inner-directed. If we are angry, we have to act in some particular way. But they direct our behavior. Now let's talk about motivation. Motivation is the why of behavior. Why did we do that? And it's very difficult to figure out the motives of someone else. She is hungry, he is ambitious, he is needy. There are lots of different motives that can control our behavior. It's difficult to attribute the motives of others. Why did she do that? Because we don't really see the actual motive. We have to try to infer that from looking at what behaviors that motive is producing. Now, biological approaches to motivation deal with arousal, homeostasis, and opponent processes. We're going to talk about all of those. Arousal is how aroused we are. Homeostasis is that construct that says that the body will act to return things to normal. And so if we are very hungry, we need to get food, so we reduce our hunger, going back to the steady state. And if we had a lot of food to eat, we are lethargic and we have to do things, not eat again, to return it to homeostasis, to that steady state. Okay, arousal. The law of arousal is the Yerkes-Dodson law, which says that the effect of arousal on performance is really an inverted U-shaped function. The optimal level of arousal is hit in the mid-range. If we're under-aroused, performance is low, the efficiency of performance. And if we're over-aroused, performance is low. But in this mid-range, we have optimal performance. So the relationship of level of arousal to efficiency of performance is in this inverted U-shaped function, the Yerkes-Dodson law. Homeostasis says that the body has a natural reaction to counteract any deviation from normalcy. We try to keep things in balance, try to meet our bodily needs. And if we're too motivated, our behavior will try to reduce that drive. And if we're undermotivated, the body will try to increase that drive to keep things in normalcy. In other words, keep things at a steady state. So biology provides feedback to keep things in steady state, and that feedback is called homeostasis. So the important thing here is that motivation is a feedback system. We have an action generator, that is this drive that causes us to do certain things. Then we engage in some action. We have a sensor that says, are things at a steady state? Like, for example, in hunger, it's the brain, our liver, and our stomach. We'll talk about that later this week. But if we get a positive feedback from this sensor, then we'll continue the action. In other words, it says, it's not less than X, so keep doing what you need to do, like eat. And if it's a negative feedback, we have inhibition, stop the action. So we think of homeostasis and motivation as this feedback from our body telling us whether things are in normalcy or not. And if, for example, with hunger, we seek food. Do we have enough food? Yes. Then stop. No, then continue the action. Positive and negative feedback. Now, one of the interesting theories of motivation that accounts for lots of behaviors is the opponent process theory. And the opponent process theory says that we have a biological need to do something. That's the drive of motivation. But also, because of homeostasis, the body has this natural tendency to have this reverse action. So we have these opponent processes. In other words, there's a fundamental opposition of emotional processes: pain versus pleasure, terror versus euphoria. They are opposite of each other, and the body is trying to counteract if we get some particular one of these feelings. For example, if we ride a roller coaster, we have this unbelievable terror of scaring whether we're going to fall off and at these high heights. But that produces euphoria. So we have this feeling of doing something that's exciting and good, and they're opponents to each other. They're opposite to each other. If too much of one, then the other kicks in, the opponent process. And if we have a repetition of that original emotional state, that's going to habituate the one state and actually increase the strength of the other. Let me show you a graph that shows that. Here we have an example of opponent processes where we do something, it increases one process, and then it levels out and actually produces the opposite process. Think about drug addiction, for example, an acquired motivation. We take the drug, it produces some very, very euphoric state of that drug, it levels out, and then we stop taking the drug, and we have this feeling of withdrawal. So we have, with the drug example, we have a positive state, but we also have this negative state that kicks in because the body is trying to produce the opponent process. And then when we stop, we have this negative reaction or withdrawal, for example, from the drug. If we take the drug a lot, then we habituate to the positive effects of the drug. Here's one after many repetitions of taking the drug. And you can see the very little positive effect, but because of the opponent process, we have a big negative effect, the withdrawal. And so we need to take more of the drug to get the positive effect, and we have to take the drug even without the positive effect to avoid the negative effect. Opponent process theory, a theory of motivation developed by Solomon. Now, there are many different motives, and I'm going to talk about Maslow's need hierarchy as a description of what these motives are. First, we have physiological motives. The need for food, the need for water, the need for rest, the need for sexual expression, the need for oxygen. And these needs are basic physiological needs, and we have to satisfy them. If we're very, very hungry, that's all we think about. It's the very basis of the need hierarchy developed by Maslow. Then we have safety needs. If we satisfy our physiological needs, then we have safety needs. The need for security, for comfort, for tranquility, the freedom from fear. These are the second level of needs that we have to satisfy. And if we satisfy our safety needs, then we have the need for being with others, for being a part of a social group. And that's the need for attachment, the need to belong, the need to affiliate, the need for love. And these are another sort of basic need that we have to satisfy. If we satisfy all of these needs, then we have to deal with esteem, the need for confidence, the sense of worth and competence, and self-esteem and respect from others. Others respect us. So it's really self-esteem kind of needs. And then finally, if we've satisfied all of these needs, the highest level in Maslow's need hierarchy is this need for self-actualization, the need to fulfill our potential, and the feeling that we have self-fulfilled, which is the highest level. Now, Maslow was not a scientist. He developed this from observing lots of people, but it has lots of actual data to support the idea that if we are hungry, very, very hungry and starving, that's what we're going to be dealing with because it's so important, the lowest part of the need hierarchy. So we have really two kinds of needs. We have these deficiency needs that we have to satisfy, physiological needs, hunger, thirst, safety, and attachment. And then we have these growth needs, esteem and self-actualization. Many different motives. Another distinction is extrinsic motivation, motivation from the outside. Like I tell my grandchildren, if you'll pick up the clothes off the floor, I'll give you 50 cents. I think I have to say $1. It's been a lot of inflation for grandchildren these days. And then we have intrinsic needs. We do things because we want to do them. So extrinsic needs are rewards, satisfying the drive from outside, and in intrinsic, we satisfy it in our own because we just like to do it. Now, there's a principle called the Premack principle, developed by Premack, that says we can use these two together. For example, Skinner loved to play the piano, but he had to write. So what he did was, he had an intrinsic need for playing the piano, and he had an extrinsic need of needing to write so he could publish and make his salary. So what he would do is, he said, if he had an hour of writing, then he could play the piano for 15 minutes. So he used the intrinsic need, the intrinsic reward, to allow him to increase the behavior that was controlled extrinsically. So one was preferred, and he used the preferred behavior to reward one that was not preferred. So intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Thank you.